UFC Vegas 77. These are the full card predictions and the betting breakdown. Main event, Holm fights Mayra Bueno Silva. Looking forward to talking about each of the matchups on the card. Make sure you guys smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Turn the post notifications on and make sure to share the video as well. Also note, full card fight companion live, 7 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday. Do not miss it. And let's get into the first fight of the night. Ladies going after it. It's Ashley Evans-Smith versus Ailin Perez. I'm going to be picking Ailin Perez, though I'm not overly impressed by her. How can you pick Ashley Evans-Smith with 2.5 years off? Really, if you look, fight before that was 4 years and 4 months ago. She's not been active in the slightest. For Ailin Perez, she's a pretty physically strong girl. She's actively competing. She's aggressive. She does have decent punch combinations. She has some takedowns. She bullies a lot of opponents on the lower level. Then she came into the UFC, and Stephanie Egger bullied her. Ashley Evans-Smith is a pretty decent kickboxer who has a nice right hand, but I feel like she will be susceptible to the takedowns, and the long layoff for her, I expect to cause some issues with starting slow, and Perez is going to start fast. I feel like Perez by decision is going to be the official call, not craving a bet on this fight right here. Ailin Perez minus 150 as the favorite. Ashley Evans-Smith plus 130 as the underdog. Could Ailin Perez finish her off? I could see ground and pound stoppage with Ashley Evans-Smith at 36 now, her opponent Perez 28, and like I mentioned, the long layoff. We really don't know what to expect from Ashley Evans-Smith on a comeback. I'm going to say she's probably not at the level maybe she was even previously in her last fight. So now you're coming in against a young, hungry Perez who's actively competing, was beaten up Tamara's Vidal before, obviously getting disqualified in that fight. I'm going with Ailin Perez to get it done. She'll finally get her UFC victory after an unsuccessful debut. I think she can win this one here. The twerking princess for the W, Ailin Perez. Next fight on the card, it's Carl Deaton III versus Alex Munoz. I see Alex Munoz as the winner here. I expect him to land takedowns. Carl Deaton's a decent enough fighter overall. He has some submission skills on the feet. He's all right. I'm not jumping up and down. I'm looking at the last fight against Joe Solecki, and he was dominated on the floor. Alex Munoz, team alpha male guy, has a pretty good takedown game, fights out of the southpaw stance, is fairly quick and athletic, especially in the striking. And, you can see the wrestling base overall and just his athletic capabilities. I expect him to be pretty accurate with takedown attempts, getting on top of Carl Deaton, smothering him with a bit of ground and pound. Munoz doesn't have the submission skills of Solecki, who just strangled Carl Deaton last time out. So I expect Munoz to win a grind-heavy, unanimous decision in this fight right here. Now, he's been out for a while. Last fight was 2 years and 2 months ago, and it was against Luis Pena. Lost a split decision. Pena's no longer with the promotion, but he is a pretty decent fighter. He's really long, and he was a lot taller than Alex Munoz. Munoz now in this matchup has someone shorter than him with less reach. I think Munoz can have success in the striking department and then mixing in his takedowns well. I'm going to go Munoz for a unanimous decision over Carl Deaton III. As far as the odds here, Munoz is a slight favorite at minus 145. Deaton at plus 125 is the dog. These lines make a lot of sense to me here. I think Munoz deserves to be the favorite. I know he hasn't fought in a while, and I do recognize that he has less MMA experience than Carl Deaton III, but I feel like the wrestling's going to come home for him here. I expect him to look decent in his comeback and pull off a unanimous decision. So we're going to ride Munoz to get it done in this fight. Next fight on the card, it's Tyson versus Azat Maksum. Listen, give me the Kazakh. Azat, he's the guy. I think that he's going to be nasty from striking range. His straights are really good, but something that you see with him that is, an evolving skill set in mixed martial arts is jabs. He has a solid jab, a stiff jab, but also like an on-point peppering jab. He'll rip 3 jabs in a row. I think he's going to be jabbing up Tyson Nam. Nam throws big power strikes, but I believe shots down the center line are going to land. He's also 39, whereas Azat is 28. You got to give me the Kazakh for the win. I think he's getting this thing done. I'm going to say he's actually going to get a KO. I'm feeling like he chins Tyson Nam. Bueno Silva got to Nam a few times in their fight, and I really think here Azat's going to be good to go. I think he gets a finish. I'm going to say knockout, but it wouldn't be mind-boggling if it was a submission also. I could see him hurting Nam and then clubbing, subbing him even. But we'll go Azat by KO as the official call. A nasty straight punch. He finds shots down the line. Nam at 39 is not going to be able to deal with this prospect. There's a reason, he's 16-0. He's a minus 400 favorite in his debut. Nam plus 350 to dog. Give me Azat, the Kazakh, Maksum for the win. And I'm going to call knockout victory in this fun flyweight fight. He's going to be 16-0, and he's somebody, if he looks impressive in his debut against Tyson Nam, because let's be real, that's a massive debut. Nam's an experienced veteran in this game. To beat him, and if he goes out there and beats him convincingly, you have somebody that could emerge in the top 15 very quickly and work their way up in the flyweight division. I'm telling you guys right now, flyweight is crazy that at one point the UFC talked about cutting the weight class, and now this past weekend, Brandon Moreno and Alexandre Pantoja put on an all-time classic. I love flyweight, and this is a great flyweight matchup, and Azat the Kazakh for the win. Next fight on the card, it's Genaro Valdéz versus Evan Elder. I do expect Evan Elder to win here. He's the better wrestler of the two. He's the harder puncher of the two. He's going to have better pressure. He's also taller than Genaro Valdéz. Valdéz is a guy that, is more on the slimmer side. He's pretty tough, and I mean, he can sit in there and bang. He does have a decent stand-up game. He's got stinging punches, but Elder, I expect to have the bullying force. He's a Kill Cliff FC guy, and if you know about Kill Cliff, I mean, there's straight killers over there that he's in the room with on a regular basis. And not that Antram Gym doesn't have some savages too. I mean, they do. Chairez, who just lost to Tatsuro Tayada last, 2 days ago, now yesterday rather, in the recording of this video, was dog tough in that matchup. But Evan Elder, I expect to have an edge in the wrestling, an edge in the power. And even in his most recent loss against Nazim Sadykhov, I gotta say, he looked damn good at 155. His debut, he fought a way bigger guy in Preston Parsons. I think in this one, he's got the physicality advantage, the punching power advantage, and I think he could potentially hurt Genaro Valdéz and put the lights out. I'm kind of feeling like he'll stun Valdéz a bit on the feet. They'll work in some wrestling. I can see Elder on top. I'm thinking a ground and pound TKO for Evan Elder in this matchup here. I haven't beaten Genaro Valdéz. Valdéz is a tough Mexican cat who's going to bring the fire. And Elder is a disgustingly wide favorite. He's really not too good of a bet, though. I'm going to tell you guys why. Because he's 0-2 in the UFC and is not proven. Genaro Valdéz, tough Mexican guy who's definitely on the come up and wants a fucking win, coming to kill from Antram Gym. They're always live dogs. Minus 280, Evan Elder, that's a bad tag for him. That's not, for me, something I'd consider playing. Minus 160, the money line. Valdéz plus 240 as an underdog. I really see Elder as the better fighter in this and the more physical specimen in this. But it's like, damn, plus 240 Genaro Valdéz seems wrong to me. It opened up at plus 140. That makes a lot more sense. Seeing him as more than a 2-1 favorite, it's like, I'm going to chill. I'm going to stay off this one, I believe. Evan Elder, I mean, maybe it's a KO prop, but Genaro Valdéz is dog tough. I think Elder has the potential to sleep him. You see, Genaro Valdéz, Matt Frivola fight, he did get chinned in that one. And then Natan Levy, he goes long with. Note something about Natan Levy. He does not have the physicality nor power of Evan Elder. He's a good technical fighter, but doesn't have those qualities. So Evan Elder, I am thinking a TKO win for him. I'm going to say ground and pound, but he's a bit wide as a favorite, which makes, the bet a little bit unappealing. Next fight on the card, it's Austin Lingo versus Melquizael Costa. I like Costa a lot. I'm picking him to win here. I'm a fan. Lingo on the other side is a good boxer. I mean, he brings in like almost a pure boxing style into the cage. Very minimal low kicks. Not like he's bad defensively with his grappling, but when he fought, Nate Landwehr last time out, he was finished by a submission. Now you have Costa on the other side, who I'd say is pretty much a submission ace, and he's also tricky in the striking department too. Fights out of the southpaw stance, is pretty quick. I feel like in this matchup here, Lingo is so limited to just fighting with fist that I got to go with the opponent who has more tools. Even in the striking, the better kicks are on the Costa side, even if Lingo's the better pure boxer. But this isn't boxing, it's MMA. I feel like Costa's going to be in on takedowns. Maybe doesn't get the first couple, but it's going to consistently look to set up takedowns and find his way on top. And when he does, I do think he's going to find the submission. I'm going Costa for the win by sub. He is a minus 205 favorite, and I don't think that's a crazy tag for him. Lingo is plus 175 as the underdog. Costa by submission. I expect him to get control of Lingo on the floor, slowly wear him down, and I think he probably strangles him. I could see a rear naked choke. I have a feeling Costa is going to end up getting Lingo's back and then find the finish from there. So I'm going Costa for the win by submission over Lingo in an exciting fight. Next fight on the card, we got ladies going after it. Istela Nunes and Victoria Dudakova. Dudakova for the win. I think this is pretty straightforward. Istela Nunes, I'd say, is suspect with her grappling. She has a decent kickboxing base, though. Like, I have to give respect where it's due, but I think she's going to get bullied by Dudakova. Dudakova has pretty solid takedowns. She's still a bit of a raw talent at only 24, but she's going to be really hard for Nunes to deal with. A wrestling attack, top control, bit of ground and pound. I think Nunes is worn out by the end of the first round. Second round, in the middle of it, even going into the later stages, Dudakova is going to be live by sub. She does have some submission wins here, also some KO wins, but you see, right? Rear naked choke, rear naked choke. I'm thinking in this one, she gets the back of Istela Nunes and rear naked chokes her. I feel like Dudakova is a good prospect. Istela Nunes is I would say, pretty decent kickboxer, but she lacks in the physicality department. She's going to be outmuscled by Dudakova, and I don't think she has the wrestling defense to stay off of her back, and when she gets to her back, I think she has a really hard time getting up. Survives the first round, fatigued, and then submitted in the second or third. So give me Dudakova for the win by submission. She's minus 270, a wide women's fight favorite, and she's making her debut. Normally it would be like, yo, flip it, go the other side. But with Istela Nunes, who's pretty iffy, who's lost, every one of her UFC fights, starting with Carnelosi to Sam Hughes, which she gave Sam Hughes a bit of a tough out, but still clearly lost. Yasmin Yaraigoi obviously knocked her out. She did drop Yaraigoi in that fight, but Dudakova, I think, has the wrestling chops to cause real problems for an Istela Nunes in this fight. So I am going to ride with the 6-0 Russian to win this fight by submission. Now, the odds, minus 270. It's ugly wide for a money line. Istela Nunes plus 230 as the underdog. I'm riding with Victoria Dudakova, win by submission in this fight right here. Next fight on the card is our featured prelim of the night. It's Tucker Lutz versus Baghdasaryan. I am picking Tucker Lutz to win, and I think he is being completely slept on by the bookies and is a good dog. He is a well-rounded martial artist with a good wrestling game. He's strong. Not the top tier of wrestlers. Yeah, Pat Sabatini bullied him on the ground, but he's fighting Baghdasaryan, who has a background in professional stand-up fighting, kickboxing, boxing, right? Tucker Lutz was an 8-0 amateur fighter, has worked his way up in the UFC, 12-3 record, has more experience than Baghdasaryan in cage fighting, is also 2 years younger than Baghdasaryan. So what is a better base for cage fighting? Doing, kickboxing beforehand or working your way up through the amateur circuit of MMA? I think that Tucker Lutz is going to win this fight. Baghdasaryan, later in fights, I think he's going to start to fade. And when you have somebody like Tucker Lutz, who's a bit of a physical specimen, very physically strong guy, who can bring pressure to you, back you up against the cage, wear on you, fatigue those arms, Tucker Lutz's biggest risk in this fight is going to be getting caught up in a kickboxing match with Baghdasaryan, who definitely can strike with the best of them. I mean, he was beating Josh Kulabayao in the striking department, and Kulabayao is a good striker. I look at Tucker Lutz, you got a decent stance-switching MMA striking style. I like his stand-up. He has good straight punches, a good low kick. As I said, his physicality, he's a strong guy. He shoots good takedowns. Yeah, he lost to Daniel Pineda in his last fight, but Daniel Pineda is a bit of another level of mixed martial arts experience. He works really well when he closes the gap. And in this fight here, you have Baghdasaryan, who's a slick southpaw, who fights very well from the distance, nasty kicks, the pro experience in striking, but potentially fatigues late. As impressive as Baghdasaryan's stand-up is, when you look at Baghdasaryan, it's like, wow, that guy's awesome on the feet, and I think he's an awesome striker, but this is MMA. And Tucker Lutz also now put in small cage. Fuckload of fights, 8-0 amateur, 12-3 pro. That's a ton of cage fights, purely experience in MMA. That's an advantage to me over the kickboxing and boxing background. I think Tucker Lutz is going to wear on Melsik Baghdasaryan, work towards takedowns, as long as he is not caught early and chinned early, which, not something Melsik Baghdasaryan does easily. Bruno Souza goes distance with him. I know we stopped Colin Anglin, but I'll tell you, Tucker Lutz is another beast than Colin Anglin. And Dennis Bajuka, that fight he ends up winning. And, he has moments where he's getting controlled against the cage and taken down. Tucker Lutz can capitalize so much in those positions. I think he can work a bit of ground and pound, even get towards a finish. Tucker Lutz, late finish submission. Second or third round, the submission is going to be live here, especially the third round when Baghdasaryan, I think, is going to be so fatigued from having to fight off the takedown attempts of Lutz. Lutz to win this fight by submission. You'll say, yo, but Daniel Pineda dropped him. Melsik Baghdasaryan definitely can drop him. Daniel Pineda's style is totally different. He's a stocky guy with power in his hands who fights well on the inside. Baghdasaryan is a slick, technical kickboxer who's nasty from range. For me, it's Tucker Lutz for the win. Training at Ground Control Academy, that's everything. Look at ground control. That's where I want this fight. I want it against the cage, in the clinch, and on the ground. Tucker Lutz to win by submission. I'm having him as a savage underdog at plus 175. Melsik Baghdasaryan, the minus 205 favorite. I think Tucker Lutz is going to be on him like glue, is going to fatigue him, is going to finish him off. That is the wrong line, in my opinion, and Tucker Lutz is an incredible underdog. Lutz for the win in the featured prelim of the night. And let's jump to the main card. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you smash that like button. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. It's Terrance McKinney and Nazim Sadykhov. I'll tell you straight up, I've been going back and forth on this one. But I settled on Sadykhov because he's a better technical fighter. If you look at Terrance McKinney, he fights extremely well early, unloads incredibly. But something when you saw him fight against Bonfim is he struggles when guys can match him on the feet. And Nazim Sadykhov can strike. He also is a Longo and Weidman MMA guy. So he does have some jiu-jitsu skill sets in the works here. That's something that I think is going to be a potential advantage in this fight too. I expect competitive striking, but Sadykhov is the more technical striker. And it's also interesting, too, because we got southpaw versus southpaw. I'll tell you something. I think this fight is going over 1.5 rounds. And I also think Sadykhov probably going to win it by a decision. I think Terrance McKinney's going to be able to go long. I don't think he's getting knocked out in this fight. I think he's just going to lose the rounds. First round, I can see McKinney's athleticism making it very competitive. Sadykhov surviving a dangerous first round, then wearing on a Terrance McKinney, maybe mixing in some clinch, also then finding his strikes, and I think he's going to get it done on the cards. I'm going Nazim Sadykhov by a unanimous decision over Terrance McKinney. And it's sad to say because McKinney was that guy and he knocked out Matt Frivola, which is a huge win, and he's somebody that corners Sadykhov. But he just doesn't have the chops for me, man. I just don't believe it. He's really powerful. He's dangerous early in fights, but Sadykhov is pretty well-rounded. I like the technical capabilities. I like Sadykhov as the prospect. I like him to win. I'm going Sadykhov. He is the favorite, interestingly enough. Opened as the plus 125 dog, but is now at a minus 155 favorite tag. Terrance McKinney, the plus 135 underdog. But like I said, man, that over 1.5, plus 145, I think there's a real chance that we go over 1.5 rounds between these two guys. So give me Nazim Sadykhov for the win by a decision over Terrance McKinney in a pretty exciting lightweight prospect fight. Next fight on the card is Ottman Azaitar versus Francisco Prado. I'm going to be picking Francisco Prado. He's bigger, longer, and younger. than Ottman Azaitar. Now, Azaitar's 13-1, has all this hype coming in to fight Matt Frivola and was brutally chinned. And I'm starting to really wonder if Azaitar might have that Amir Khan chin. For you guys that aren't boxing fans that don't know who Amir Khan is, he was a really schooled fighter. Nasty game. I mean, he had great boxing skill. But when you touched his chin, his legs fell from under him. I think Ottman Azaitar is going to get chinned in this one. He's a guy that throws caution to the wind. I feel like Azaitar would be a pretty damn good street fighter, man. He's a great heavy-handed brawler, a guy who's going to throw pretty much everything into his punches and try to bully his opponents. He's smaller, though, than Prado. Prado with the range, as I said, has a pretty solid boxing game, can land decent hooks inside, and I think Ottman Azaitar is going to actually find himself walking into shots and out cold. I'm saying it's going to be back-to-back knockout losses for Ottman Azaitar. Prado, I believed in him against Jamie Malarkey. Even though he lost that fight, I think this matchup now falls right into his game nicely. Azaitar is going to come to him to throw big strikes. Prado is going to find the counter strikes, and he's going to get a KO. Prado for the win by KO. Prado is a slight favorite. The odds are very close between these two. It's minus 130 for Francisco Prado. Ottman Azaitar, the plus 110 underdog. Give me Prado. Give me win by knockout for Francisco Prado. I think he's chinning Ottman. I know Ottman was undefeated coming in, but even when I was looking back against Teemu Pacquiao, I'm like, he's swinging these big shots against a guy who's like almost terrified of his power. Prado's willing to sit in there and throw heat back. Frivola did it to him and chinned him bad. I think Prado's going to chin him bad too. Next fight on the card, we got the ladies again going after it. Norma Dumont versus Chelsea Chandler. I got to pick Norma Dumont, but I really like Chelsea Chandler. She has that Nate Diaz, Nick Diaz flair. She's from Stockton, and it's like, that's just what they breed. The style is similar. She's a southpaw. She's got some decent boxing, slapping shots at times, but there's power on them. She comes in and looks to bang. She won her last fight against Julia Stoliarenko, but Stoliarenko is back end as far as, the women's divisions, and also broke in that fight. Norma Dumont is a pretty consistent performer. She's a pretty good striker. She's got a fast lead hook. I feel like almost like you can call it like a karate-esque Muay Thai mix striking style. She has capabilities on the ground. She's strong inside of the clinch, and she's a veteran of the game. She's got so much high-level experience. I mean, look at the last five for Norma Dumont. Win over Felicia Spencer. Win over Aspen Ladd. Lost to Macy Chiasson on a split. Win against Danielle Wolf. Win against Carl Rosa. I think she's winning a decision against Chelsea Chandler in this fight here. I think Chandler's a junkyard dog. She's one of those style of fighters that I'm always going to want to tune into, but I don't think she's beating Norma Dumont. Dumont's too skilled, and I'm going to have to pick her to get it done. I'm going against the fan-friendly and, fan favorite, really, in Chelsea Chandler, who I think has a good future in the game, but this matchup is rough for your second outing in the UFC. Plus 125 for Chelsea Chandler, minus 145 for Norma Dumont. I'm actually kind of surprised Dumont's not sitting at like minus 200. She opened at minus 210, and a lot of people obviously then bet down the Chelsea Chandler side. I think Dumont is going to look like a 2-1 favorite here and win a pretty clean-cut, unanimous decision. I can see her putting Chelsea Chandler on her back, controlling from top, controlling her against the cage, finding some strikes from range. Chandler will have a couple moments, but Dumont's going to win the majority of the fight. Next fight on the card, featured bout of the night, it's Walt Harris versus Josh Parisian. I think Walt Harris finally gets a win. It's been so long since he's won a fight. 2000 and what? Was 3 years and 11 months ago. So that's like 2019. He has not won a fight in a long time. Obviously, the tragic loss of his stepdaughter seems like, he was unable to, really bounce back. I don't know, from that, or is it just hard matchups? Because look at his losses. Marcin Tybura 2 years ago, Alexander Volkov, and Alistair Overeem. 3 top heavyweights. And now he's fighting Josh Parisian, who's a bottom heavyweight. Like, if you lose to Josh Parisian for Walt Harris, he knows it's time to hang the gloves up at 40. I think Walt Harris is going to get an emphatic knockout. I'd be surprised if Josh Parisian is able to survive a round with Walt Harris, because Harris has incredible bursts in his fight. He goes crazy early, and he's super athletic and powerful, and he can knock you out. He knocks a lot of guys out. But the better guys are able to survive that storm and beat him. Josh Parisian's not that better guy. Also, Walt Harris is a southpaw too. So dynamite hand, southpaw, very good athlete, fast starter. Josh Parisian, kind of a plodding, slower, tough journeyman heavyweight. Kind of looks like somebody you'd see in the octagon in 2004. Okay puncher, not very fast, looping shots, a little bit unorthodox. The hands are low. He's going to be at such a speed disadvantage. And where Walt Harris has his biggest difficulties is when guys also are able to put him on the ground and take him down and beat him up. Josh Parisian isn't going to be able to do that. Walt Harris is going to knock him out in the first round. Give me Walt Harris by KO, and I'm confident he wins this fight. Walt Harris is minus 200 as the favorite. Josh Parisian, the plus 170 dog. Very confident in Walt Harris here. I know he's been off for 2 years. Even if he's 10%, 15% worse than his fight against Marcin Tybura, he's still knocking Josh Parisian out in the first round. So give me Walt Harris for KO, and I'm pretty damn confident he pulls it off. Finally gets a win. Co-main event, it's Albert Duraev versus Jun Young Park. I'm going to be picking Albert Duraev to win this fight. I think he can pull it off here. I mean, Jun Young Park's a pretty decent boxer who obviously likes to wrestle. I'll call him a wrestler boxer. Uses his boxing well to set up takedowns, and he can beat lesser guys up pretty well from the top position. I mean, he fucked Dennis Tulilin up bad in his last fight here. He's active on top with his ground and pound, but you're fighting Duraev, who, in my opinion, is definitely the better wrestler. He's got the better pressure on top with his wrestling. He smothers his opponents better, and I think he's going to be able to beat Jun Young Park here. As far as in the striking department, Duraev's actually pretty fast with his stand-up game. I think he's got a speed advantage over Park. I wouldn't say Duraev is overly powerful with his hands, though, so there might be a little bit of punching power advantage to Park, but I feel like Duraev actually could put a Jun Young Park on his back, and I'd be very interested to see how Jun Young Park is able to deal with Duraev on top of him. I'm feeling like Duraev can get a finish here. I'm thinking Duraev by submission. Now, he could go out and win it on the judges' scorecards. That wouldn't be crazy. But I have a feeling that Duraev is on top of Park, beating him up with some ground and pound, and could potentially sink in a rear naked choke or an arm triangle. So give me Albert Duraev for the win, and I'm going to call submission win for him in this fight here. And I was actually very surprised to see he's a plus 134 underdog, opened up at even money. Jun Young Park now the minus 154 favorite. When I saw this fight, I said Duraev for the win, and then I looked at the odds after. I was like, damn, Duraev now sitting at plus money? Very interesting. I thought that he would be minus 150. I thought the line would probably be flipped. That's what I was expecting from it. But no, Duraev's the dog. So kind of like the surprising underdog, which kind of gives me a little more confidence on Duraev, that I really anticipated that he'd be the favorite in this fight. So Albert Duraev, I think he's going to be getting it done, using his wrestling, competing a bit on the feet, some ground and pound, and then I think he can potentially sink in a choke in the second or third round. So give me Albert Duraev for the upset win over the Iron Turtle, Jun Young Park, in a pretty fun co-main event matchup. I know it's not a super stacked card, but I do like that fight a lot. Main event of the evening. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. It's Holly Holm versus Mayra Bueno Silva. I'm picking Holly Holm to win, and I recognize she is 41 years of age. I know, but it's still Holly Holm. And she doesn't really look like she's slowed down. She showed great takedowns and control against Yana Santos last time. She's always had pretty good distance striking. Mayra Bueno Silva's good, though. I like Bueno Silva at 135 a lot better than at 125. When you look at Bueno Silva's stand-up game, she's nasty with her Muay Thai. Very good stance switch striker. Nice teep kicks down the center. Also some nasty body kicks, rips to the legs quickly. But what I love is she digs a beautiful body left hook. It's so on point. The thing is, Holly Holm, I think is going to be hard for her to close the gap on and hit. Holm has a little bit of that height and reach advantage, 5'8 to 5'6, 69-inch reach to 66.5. Holm moves very well. The only concern is, at 41 years of age, it's like, when is she going to slip? Could it be this fight? Could it be your next fight? We shall find out. Could it be two more? I don't know. We can't say. But Holly Holm definitely, even showing against Yana Santos, I believe is the better fighter and should win this matchup, as long as, she's still the Holly Holm that we knew from the last fight that we saw. Bueno Silva is a good talent. She's a skilled fighter, and she's dangerous, and she's 10 years younger than Holly Holm. That's crazy. But she's going to lose here. And if you look at the striking, Manon Ferrot, Similar to Holly Holm. Holly Holm-esque, obviously different. I like Manafro a lot. She was able to dominate Mayra Bueno Silva in that fight. Bueno Silva, when she's getting bullied a bit and you don't just back up and let her come after you and throw hard strikes like, Lena Landsberg did last time out, she finds herself in a bit of trouble. There's straights to land, there's kicks to land, there's counter strikes, there's fast combos. I think that Holly could potentially throw flurries up top, mix in clinch, and then takedown. I think Holly Holm is definitely going to be the physically stronger girl. Bueno Silva does have a decent submission game. I got to give credit where it's due, but I don't think she's tapping out Holly Holm. Holly Holm for the win. We're going the full 5, I believe. Holm hasn't won a fight by stoppage since she beat Betch Correia in 2017. So give me Holly Holm on the judges' scorecards. Unanimous decision to close out the card. She wins the main event. She's a minus 155 favorite. She opened up at minus 160. And then Mayra Bueno Silva, the plus 135 dog. Holly Holm for the win. I still think she's got it. And she could find herself in the title picture with a win here now that Amanda Nunes retired. Who knows what's next for that division? I know they've talked about Raquel Pennington maybe fighting against Juliana Pena. Holly Holm wouldn't be far off for a title fight. I mean, you look at the lone loss recently. It's a split against Ketlin Vieira that a lot of people thought that she won. So Holly Holm for the win. She's going to beat Mayra Bueno Silva by a unanimous decision. And at 41, she can still kick it with the top tier. I love it. I love it for Holly Holm. She's getting it done. You know what? Not a bad card when you're really digging into it. I think there's some really exciting matchups and some interesting bets to make, especially on the underdog side, Tucker Lutz. I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown. Make sure you smash that like button if you did. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and turn the post notifications on as well. I'm working on dropping a lot more of like news / opinion / early prediction content too. So if you really want to see everything, go over to those post notifications and put them from personalized on all so you get that notification. Much love, my people. If you got nothing to say in the comments, definitely drop a W in the chat, but I'm curious for sure what some of your guys' favorite picks are on the card. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace, everybody.